Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, our virtual audience as well. We welcome you again. We are the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, ICBA. We welcome you from COP27, the UAE Pavilion, and we are very delighted to have you this morning. Today, we are presenting through hopefully interactive discussion with all of you about the Desert Farm to Fork, developing value chains of climate resilient. And this is very important for us because we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about action. COP27 is about action, and this is really example of research that has been done at ICBA to showcase the best practices when it comes to the resilient crops that we really require to mitigate challenges associated with climate change. With me today as well, Dr. Luis Augusto, our Chief Scientist from the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, and also Dr. Sherbil Tarraf, our Chief Development and Operation, who will be sharing also their insights with you shortly. Before we start, I would like to introduce you and give you an overview about ICBA. ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, were founded by the government of United Arab Emirates and Islamic Development Bank with the concept to find innovative solution for the field of agriculture related to climate challenges and also food security. And we are, from the name, specialized in biosaline solutions, and therefore we look at sustainable livelihood and food security in marginal environments. The concept started with saline area and salinity challenges, but we evolved now to cover marginal environment to make sure that we cover larger population of marginal people who are living in marginal environments. We're talking about 1.75 billion lives there who are, again, impacted heavily by the climate change. Our vision is big, so our mission should make it possible to be implemented and achieved, and therefore our mission emphasizes on partnership. We cannot do it alone, and that's why, again, COP27 is an example where all ideas, decision makers, thinkers, leaders come together for us to put together solutions to mitigate challenges associated with food security and climate change. We are also surrounding ourselves with the Sustainable Development Goal. As you are aware, Sustainable Development Goal are to be achieved by 2030, so we really strive to find solution and make sure the application for us respond to such need. We are looking at a number of challenges, and while we are doing that, we are also trying to make sure that we are focusing on research. Research is the backbone of what we do, basic research or applied research. We will tell you more about what we do through the intervention of Dr. Augusto. However, I'd like to mention that applied research is very important for us because we do things on the ground. We action it, and we make sure that we look at the impact. Impact what it matters, because we want to touch the life of people in livelihood, especially farmers and smallholder farmers. Not every single project or research will be moving to the developmental stage. However, we strive to make sure that what is applied on the ground is easy to be implemented, and the value added need to be measured carefully. It's not only also about the implementation, it's also about sustainability of implementation. And therefore, you can see our third circle, we are talking about how much impact we can create on the ground. How is our end users going to benefit from what we say and what we do, and how is our stakeholders are contributing to what we do. Again, we keep very tight KPIs to what we do. Besides that, we are looking at innovation, which is the backbone of what we do. The more challenges you have, the more innovative you need to be, because you cannot expect the same different result with the same practices. And last is we need to make sure that we bridge the gap between science and society, and therefore this is where the knowledge transfer and the importance of the capacity development comes to the place. Our research priorities are summarized in 4 major categories, of which is the crops. What can we do and what can we grow in environments that is struggling and being hit by a number of challenges related to climate change, water scarcity, drought, and so many others. So we're talking about stress-resilient crops, crops that will be sustainable, crops that will be able to tolerate salinity, drought, and heat as well. We're also talking about data-driven agriculture. How can we harness the power of technology when it comes to the solutions we have? How can we make sure that the satellite images, the Internet of Things, are all incorporated in the solutions we are talking about? And of course, we live in the land, we use the water, so we are also keen, from the name BioSaline, to look at solutions that are suitable for salinity. We are looking at ways where we can amend and enhance soil to make it suitable for agriculture. We are also looking at unconventional sources of water. How can we use seawater? How can we use brackish water, brine water? How can we use treated wastewater in agriculture? And last is really talking about novel production system. It is an integrated aqua agriculture system where we look at also protected agriculture. How can we really grow holophytic crops, salt-loving crops? How can we make our food sustainable? With this, we're gonna zoom further into the details. So I'm gonna invite Dr. Augusto to take you through the next slides.
Thank you, Doctora, for the introduction and to set up the stage for how ICBA tackles the issue of delivering solutions, particularly to smallholder farmers. And as you saw, ICBA is oriented to 4 pillars, and one of the big pillars is crops. And the Desert Life Science Lab was created to strengthen our capacity to respond through traits that are traits needed for adapting crops to marginal conditions, and then understanding those traits, delivering solutions to smallholder farmers. So in November last year was launched the Desert Lab Science Laboratory, and basically this is one of a kind because of the technology of sequencing that is being implemented. So the MGI machine by BGI, which is our partner in this initiative, has been used intensively for human sequencing, but we are trying now to adapt this technology to plant DNA. And so to be able to unravel those genes that will allow plants to survive in saline water, to thrive in high heat, and most importantly, to use better the limited resources of water that we have available. So the equipment is installed at our facility. We have now go through different iterations of the type of capacity that we can develop. And you can see there that we can go from whole genome resequencing to genotyping by sequencing, metagenomics, transcriptomics, mRNA, and all other type of ways in which we can query single DNA mutations that can inform us how best we can transfer those potential genes for adaptation to marginal conditions. But all comes with the fact that we hold one of the most unique collections for these 3 restraints. So ICBA has in total 16,000 accessions from 300 species across 20 plant families. And these come from over 60 countries. 75% of the collection is salt tolerant or potentially salt tolerant. 15 to 20% are drought tolerant, and 15 to 20% are heat tolerant materials. And we will have a small but very significant collection of wild plants from the UAE that are related to crop ancestors. So it's good because this plant has been for a long time adapting to harsh conditions, and they hold the key to the adaptability in the future. Our 2 best collections for food are the quinoa and the barley collection. About almost 5,000 accessions from barley from around 100 countries are in our collection, particularly tolerant to salinity and heat. And this is very important. The same is our collection of quinoa, which holds more than 1,000 accessions. And this outside the center of origin is the largest and more comprehensive collection in the international community. So those 2 collections are very important to the organization. But we don't only conserve the plants, but we also distribute them across the country where they need it the most. And then ICBA has distributed 8,000 seed samples across 60 countries over the years. So what are the resilient crops? I mean, quinoa, we know it thrives in marginal environments, and then what we need to do is to make quinoa more productive in these environments. And so for this, the center has committed to investigate the diversity of 190 genotypes with ranges in different levels of responses to the limitations in agriculture, so heat and salinity and water use efficiency, with the aim to create not only a superfood, but a super plant for the environment. And so this is one of the major challenges that we have, but also are coming new, like Salicornia, which is one of our flagship, let's say, horticultural. It has a lot of uses in food, particularly on the table, and this was come the food farm to fork initiative. We have investigated now the pear millets because of their capacity to do bread and to replace wheat, and so we have successfully released Hashaki 1 variety in Uzbekistan, which is very successful. But also we are not stopping there. So we're looking at other forms of commodities, potential commodities, that can be grown in smallholder farmer communities. And this is important to mention because most smallholder farmers grow crop with no irrigation. So it's rain-fed. And so they are more successful or more susceptible to environmental changes. So that's why climate change is so important and why we work in these pillars. Because as climate change comes, more erratic rainfall will come, less capacity to grow crops, and more options they will need in order to sustain in the land. So then we are looking into buckwheat, proso millet, finger millet, foster millet, and fornio, which are very important crops as an alternative to wheat, rice, and maize, which are the three most important commodities in the world, but they grow under irrigation. So when there is no water, we have to look for solutions, and that's how ICBA brand itself. And with that, I will pass to my colleague, Dr. Charbel, to tell us how important is capacity building in all these efforts.
Good morning, and thank you, Dr. Augusto. Thank you, Dr. Tarifa. So, as Dr. Thank you. As Dr. Augusto mentioned, yes, we do research, we have results, but if you don't share them with others, so our knowledge will be sequestered within walls of our institution. So this is what we do in terms of capacity development, and I just say it up front, like really ICBA is one of the probably few centers that focuses a lot on capacity development. Because, I know that there are several centers that do also capacity developments, but the variety of capacity development activities that we do, I don't think many centers has this, and I will get into that in a minute. Here, all what I want to show from this slide is we were like in the desert farm at Expo 2020, where we attracted like over 200,000 visitors. And what we have there is just like, to showcase what Dr. Tarifa and Dr. Augusto talked about. This from desert to fork, okay? So that was a very, really eye-catching, if I may say, to many people who visited that Expo 2020 booth that we had there. Also, we were involved in the Floriade, okay, which is sort of another expo. And here, as you see from this photo, so Dr. Augusto talked about the Halophytic kitchen, and here what we have is that the UAE woman won the most educational exhibition award for saltwater cities at the Floriade Expo 2020 in the Netherlands. Okay, so again, as I said at the very beginning, this is bringing science to the public. Okay, so in the different forms that we have. So when I talk about capacity development and bringing science to the public at the different levels, so talking about, let's say, designing certain technical courses for people in different parts where we work in. We have also, let's say, a very robust internship program, where students, undergrad students, or sometimes graduate students, they come to do their internship at ICBA. We also have the students, postdocs, or doctoral students, or master students coming to ICBA to do their research, definitely in collaboration between the two institutions, the university where that student comes from and our scientists at ICBA. We have specific programs designed for women, like the Arab women leaders in agriculture. Also, another program which focuses on youth, the ICBA Yes, and we had yesterday 2 sessions talking about ICBA Yes. Also, we have different community initiatives. So this is when I say the capacity development at ICBA comes in different forms and shape. This is what we have. Definitely also the Farmers Feed School, because as probably we failed to say that we don't work only in the UAE, we work in many areas, in Africa, in the whole MENA region, in Central Asia. So in those countries where we work, we try to bring that knowledge that we basically have at ICBA in the headquarters to those individuals, whether they are farmers, whether they are scientists, whether they are youth. Okay, so this is our focus there. Again, I don't want to really dwell more on the ICBA Yes initiative. It is one aspect of our capacity development, and as I said, we had 2 sessions yesterday talking specifically about ICBA Yes, but the bottom line here is because youth are the future, okay, so we try to connect youth between, in the different parts of the world, and we do that through those societies that we try to build in the universities. Okay, today we have Zayed University, for example, students with us. Yesterday also we had the same program with them. We had the same program with the students of AUC, American University in Cairo. So, and we try to build on that. Okay, so every country we go to, we try to sort of connect with those individuals. Okay, to really connect. So we are the catalysts as ICBA to connect those youth together through the Yes program. And the last thing, again, you know, I mean, talking about the variety and of our capacity development. So we did not talk about the Soil Museum, which is really one of its kind in the UAE and in the region. Okay, so but we use the Soil Museum as a tool. Okay, other than being a museum, we use it as a tool. Okay, where we have students, school students, university students, but we also have specific programs for those students to come learn about soil, to come learn about the environment, to come learn about agriculture. As I said, as young students from schools or as university students. So definitely, and even sometimes we have businesses, you know, I mean, where they want to have activities, okay, rather than going to have activities, fun activities in terms of partying and all these things. We tailor activities for them that goes around, you know, I mean, tree planting, certain activities that are associated also with the Soil Museum, with what we do at ICBA. So this is in a nutshell what we have at ICBA in terms of capacity development. By this, I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharbil. Thank you, Dr. Augusto. So in a nutshell, we really believe in the desert farm to fork. We do believe that food is personal. So if we are trying to have science validate different type of crops for people to adopt, we better do it right. We do it right in terms of scientific research and application, but we also do it right when it comes to the complete value chain, because people would like to understand more about what they eat, and they would like to understand also how they eat it, so it makes much more relevance to them and to their culture, and it brings a better sustainability. With this, we close our session, and we welcome any questions we have from the audience. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, everybody here. Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's really marvelous. Nice to see ICBA. I know you are still our neighbor. You are based, hosted in UAE, but in the same time, frankly speak with you, you are outreach, okay, which is more than 60 countries. And this is the questions coming at me. Uh, how can you see, if we are going to talk about the agriculture, how can you analyze or how can you compare, different salinities, okay, around those countries with the UAE?
The problem of salinization of soil is different in different places, and simply because the salinization is a process of the soil losing its viability. And so the soils of the UAE, besides the few pockets that are agricultural based, are more sandy soils. So their viability was lost by aridity centuries ago. So we are trying to recover those soils and try to make them viable for agriculture. That's why when you saw in the presentation at the beginning, Dr. Tarifa mentioned one of our major ticket items is novel production systems, where vertical agriculture and technology is coming into place because it's needed. It's not just only the adaptation of crops to salinity, where salinity will be different because of different conditions, but also it's just how you better use the natural resources, the limited natural resources you have. And then water use efficiency is important, not only because of the rain, because I mentioned this for smallholder farmers, which is our customers mostly, but also is the best use of the water with in high technology too. We need also that to be put in. And then the germplasm is our tool to respond to those imperatives. Thank you.
I would just like to add to what Dr. Augusto mentioned is because we work on many countries, again, yes, the problem is common. Salinity is a common problem globally. However, we as a research institute, we make sure also we tailor-made solution based on countries we work in. We don't believe in one size fits all. Yes, we do have the science to validate what we speak about, but each country we work with, our solution will be customized according to their needs and according to their, the application required in that area.
Thank you for the amazing presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, so the quinoa and the barley is completely sequenced, like it's already as a plant. It's completely sequenced, yeah. So don't you think, actually in the future, we're gonna face more harsh conditions, am I right? So we're talking about 20, 30 years maybe in the future. And maybe what I think, or maybe you think about it, isn't it safe to keep some genetically modified plants of quinoa, barley, that they can really fit with much more harsh conditions? Because with the global warming and all what we are going to face, I think the plants that they will survive now will not survive in the future. So I think, or maybe you thought already of these ideas to have genetically modified plants, and really maybe in the future we can use this to plant them if the recent plants are not going to survive.
Yeah, I get your point. I mean, of course, I mean, we don't have a plan ourselves as ICBA to develop genetically modified plants now, because we have good partners in universities in the UAE that can actually do that work. So what we're trying to fit is in the space where people is not looking at this point simply because may not be their focus, because technology needs to I mean, universities has to try technology, correct, and has to advance the knowledge. So we need to apply the knowledge to what we do. So we are kind of creating the tools that the advanced organizations like the university, UAEU University can apply to do those genetically modified plants that can be the solution for the future. So we are working in partnership. So, I mean, your concern is totally valid, and we are preparing a toolbox so that you can pick, confidently and say, this is a gene I want to modify in this plant. You can work with quinoa because we have the genetic resources for quinoa to work. So I think this is what we try to do. We try to add value to the community, and then we totally believe that that's a solution. Now, working with wild material is important because those genes that you're mentioning, the capacity for plants to adapt to climate change, has been acquired by the plant kingdom, millions of years ago.
Yeah.
So plants have been before us, and climate change has happened centuries, millions of years ago as well. So plants know how to deal with it, but crops is different because crops is our creation,
Exactly.
and so we need to take care of the crops because of that. And I think it's important to say this, and that's what we're trying to unravel. We're trying to unravel the mechanisms that plants put in place in nature that we can use to sustain our food system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi. So you said like you work in Africa. So is there any like process because you said like as we know there is a shortage in crops there. So do you find a solution like there is a shortage in crops due to the drought there. So there is do you find a solution or you still work on it?
No, we have found solutions, but Dr. Tarifa rightly said, complemented what I was trying to develop there is the value chain is important. So, food is cultural, and people's choices are important. So we may have a really good solution, but may not be acceptable for the cultural setup of that community. So there's a process where we develop some examples as to how can we, deliver solutions for fixing the food system, but also we need to work with the communities to feedback us what they really want to have. And I think this question was asked to me in the IDB session, and we were talking about, what the continuous between, what is really needed. And what ICBA has done is to look at what is the obvious, so the obvious scientific questions for application. But if people really wants to eat wheat that is salt tolerant, that investment is completely different to adapting quinoa to the marginal environments. It will require much more investment, and much more people involved. So this is not the same, it's not comparable. So what we're doing with our crops is to demonstrate that there's a potential. But it's up to the community to decide, okay, I like your quinoa, but I want to continue eat wheat. So you want to make wheat tolerable to salinity. That's a completely different ballgame to adapting quinoa to marginal environments.
I would also add that we look at three things, I would say. We look at alternative crops, like, we come up with different set of crops that can grow in the UAE, for example, but you can grow them in Africa. So we can take those foreign crop to the African community, but we take them there and we try to look at how would they grow and what it's about, everything related to their irrigation and productivity, yield, production, etc. But also what we do is we look at the forgotten crops. They are native plants sometimes. People used to eat them and then they completely forgot about them after a while for adopting to new ways of eating. So sometimes we go and we remind people of those crops that they forgot about eating them, and they can nicely grow in their culture and their community. The third part is the knowledge transfer and training, and this is what Dr. Sharbil spoke about. It's not enough about ICBA to go and provide crops to X community, but also we need to train them and make their people understand how can they really take care of their own natural resources for better sustainability and for the better, I would say, return on investment on the long term.
Okay, so you share the result that you come with them, but they did not accept it. Like they did not accept the alternative crops that you have.
No, it's not really that. They do. Again, we work with each country to provide them with solution for their own. So usually countries accept, and they are our partner. It's not about accept and reject. Is about engaging them in the process, from the early beginning of telling them we're going to grow X, Y, and Z crops with you. Is that suitable? Is that suitable for your land? Is that suitable for your resources? So we give them suggestions. They become as partners with us. So that's where we work hand in hand with them to make sure that our solution is implemented and adopted there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
If no more questions, then we thank you all for your insights, and we thank you for listening, and hope you will be in touch shall you have more questions in the future. Thank you very much.